I was working on a pre-commit hook this week and I ran into some problems. After debugging and some research, I discovered that the missing piece of my pre-commit hook was the require serial flag. Now, when you have this flag as true for your hook configuration, then your hook will execute using a single process instead of a parallel process. Now, I'll show you some examples here to explain how this even works. But if you don't know pre-commit hooks, this is just a way where you can run certain hooks or scripts before a commit process is completed. So you're working with Git, you can add stuff to your staging area, but then you want to commit something here. Now, before this commit would be processed, you can run certain scripts that would maybe check that certain files are in place. You can do a bunch of stuff there, and if you throw an error, then this commit would fail. But if you don't throw any errors, then this commit would work successfully. And there are several tools or libraries that you can use for implementing Git hooks. It's not just pre-commit. You can run for several other stages in Git, but precommit.com has one of the popular libraries for setting up scripts for your pre-commit. But for the problem that I was running into, by the way, you can come here, check out the installation and see how stuff works. Here is my hook that I was working on and the problem I was running into. So here I have a simple pre-commit configuration. You can have different hooks here that would run. In my case, I just have one hook. This is the command or the file that I'm registering for this hook. Demo myscript.py is running the language of Python. Here I want to pass file names. Basically, this will just pass all the file names that you have in your staging area. Like you can see here, I have this staging area with a bunch of changes, and some changes I haven't added to the staging area yet. I can add this one and add this one. So it will pass all of these files to the entry here. So basically to pass file 1.txt, file 2.txt, and so on. This is why I tell the hook that it should only run when files here change. So demo/something. And then we have require serial, which by default, if we check again, require serial by default is false. So let's start with it being false and I can show you what the problem is. Now, what is my script doing? Pretty simple stuff. I get all of the file names that is passed from the staging area. I loop through all the files, read the file content, and just print the length of the content. Time.sleep here is just to illustrate a delay, just saying that maybe the process I'm doing here can take some time. Now, when we come here, we have stuff in our staging area. I can go as far here and running git commits. Git commits the message here. I can run this and you can see it's going to run my pre-commit hook, and then it will run the hooks that I have configured. Now you can see this failed. The reason why this failed is because I exit with the exit code of 1 here. So that would fail, but if I exit with 0, then my commit will be processed successfully. But now when we look at these logs here, you see that we have this printed 3 times. Now, when I was working on this pre-commit hook this week, I didn't expect that my pre-commit hook would run 3 times. You see here where I print this, I expect that this will just run once and it will receive all the file names as arguments. But that's not the case, because what we have here is that it runs once, twice, and the 3rd time, and it runs with different files. Let me also print the file name. So I'm going to print file name, and then I'm going to add that to the staging area so that it can use my script. Now, if I run git commit again, or I can actually just run pre-commit run, it's going to run the commit. You can see it's taking some time because I have this sleep for 1 second here. But when it runs, you can see now that instead of passing all the files as arguments to the pre-commit hook, it actually breaks down the files in 3 different instances of the hook. We have the first instance here, then we have another instance here. This is what the docs meant by parallel process. Now, one of the obvious benefits for this is that now your pre-commit can run faster because all the file names are not just given to one instance of your hook to run, but they are broken so it can run faster. And we can actually check that. I have a script called timer.sh. You can just use it to see how much time a particular command takes. So now if I should run timer.sh and then run pre-commit run again, probably going to take a few seconds, and you can see everything here took 5 seconds. Obviously you want your pre-commit hooks to run as fast as possible, so this is one of the benefits of the parallel process. But if we should come here now and instead of require serial false, we have require serial true, now it's going to ensure that we only have the hook running in one instance with all of the past file names. But now if I should run this again, it says your pre-commit configuration is unstaged. Oh, I need to add this to the staging area. Okay, let's try again. Now if I should run this is now going to take a much longer time because now we have just one single process of our hook running with all of the files. And after 11 seconds, everything runs. So we have just one instance and we have all of the files passed to this one instance. And obviously the more files you have in your staging area that matches your hook configuration here, then the more time this would take if you're running everything in serial. So there is a benefit to things running in parallel, but the hook implementation I was working on this week required that things had to run as a single process. Let me come up with a quick example just to illustrate what I was trying to do. Let me think of something. Here I want to have a variable called relevant files changed. The idea is that this is going to be true if file1.txt, file2.txt, and file3.txt. If these three files changed, then I want this to be true. Here I can say demo/file1.txt is in file names, and I'm just going to copy this. So this is in file names, and this is in file names, and this is in file names. I feel like there is a better way that I should do this, but just bear with me. So if these three files are in file names, then relevant file names change should be true. So here we can now say if the relevant files changed, exit with code of 1, else exit with code of 0. Now if we go back here and we run this as false, now you can see that file1.txt, file2.txt, and file3.txt, these three files actually changed. If I run this, we're most likely going to get the success. See, this actually passed, but it should not pass. I am checking that these files, if they changed, this should not pass, and they actually changed, so the pre-commit should not be successful, but it is successful. Why is it successful? Well, you don't see the logs if the hook is successful. Is there a way to see the output of the when you print? Oh yes, verbose of true, then we can see the output. So I guess you can just do it like this, verbose. So the reason why this still returns as passed is because when the script is called with this bunch of files, it has file1.txt, but it doesn't have file2 or file3. So then this place here is going to be false. In the second instance, it has file2 here, but it doesn't have file1 and file3. The third instance has file3, but doesn't have file1 and file2. And because they're running different instances, this is going to be false the first time, false the second time, false the third time, so this returns an exit of 0. So that means this will only return true if you are lucky and the pre-commit hook passes these three files together instead of in separate instances. But now when you come here and you pass true for the require serial, even though your hook is now going to take longer, that's the drawback. This way, if I should run this, I need to stage the pre-commit again. I keep forgetting. Now, if I should run this, since all of those files change, since they are in the same process where the hook is running, then this command is going to be true. And when it is true, we exit with 1, and there you have it. So we have one instance, there's file1.txt, file2.txt, file3.txt, which are the files I'm interested in, and now this hook fails. So this was what I needed for the hook implementation I was working on, so that the related files that I expect are passed as expected to the script. And only in cases where those files did not actually change, then they would not be passed to the script, and then my script would know what to do with that information. Well, this was an interesting learning this week, and I thought to share with you. I hope you found it helpful.